Hello everyone, I thought I would do a little video on how to do a faux turquoise today. So this is the same color that we're going to be working on today. So as you can see, it has the veining like turquoise, but it's a lot more cost effective and you can get some really nice results with this. So I hope you enjoy this video. Be sure to like and share it, and I really appreciate you watching. So let's get started. We are going to need, I'm using a Sculpey Primo, but whatever color you find that you like, you're more than welcome to use. This is, I think they actually call it turquoise. It is, it's turquoise. I have some other colors that I've done. For this video though, I'm going to do the one that I did that example. So what I use just a simple paint scraper, refill razor. You know, very cost effective. You don't need anything super fancy. You can even use like a piece of twine or something like that to cut your clay. You just want to make sure that your clay is pretty clean for this. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take my razor or whatever cutting to, implement you're using, and I'm going to start cutting this. Now, the trick to your segments is going to be varying your cuts so you end up with different shapes. So what you want to do with your Sculpey is cut it into individual sections, and for now we're not going to group anything together. You want to have small pieces, so I'm going to cut some of these small, and you also want to have bigger pieces. So this is really important for less of a manufactured look, so that your turquoise looks more natural. And also, like I said, you want to do, you know, some like triangles, some with like 4 sides, bigger pieces. So you just want to make sure that you've got a good variety. So this one I'm just gonna chop small like this. So depending on how much you're wanting to do, you know, it's up to you. I'm just going to do enough for this video. So as you can see, I've got all different shapes and sizes here. You know, I've got some triangles. You want to keep them pretty straight because they're going to smoosh together a little bit. So I'm keeping them nice and loose here. And here comes the part why I am wearing a glove. So what I'm going to do is I like to use a piece of cellophane wrap, piece of clear wrap, and you can do this to start. I just forgot to put mine down. So you want to put your clay on here, your little pieces, and I am using chalkboard paint. So I decided to do a matte finish paint for this part. I have not done glossy with it, but honestly, I'm not going to be coating this piece in resin at all, so I want it to stay like a nice natural matte finish. So I'm staying away from glossy. So this is what you want to do, and this is why I have a glove and plastic wrap. You're going to dribble a little bit of this black chalkboard paint. Now I have seen some people do this with gold or silver, and you can do that as well. I like the black. I think it gives it a really nice contrast and a nice veining effect. So what you want to do, you can see I've squirted some on here. Depending on how much clay you have, you may need more. But you want to take your glove here and coat all of your little pieces in this paint. And it's going to be a little gross here. You just want to make sure each piece is individually coated. So you don't want them to smush together quite yet. So we're just going to coat this here. Make sure they get a nice coat on there. You want to make sure you don't have any of the turquoise really showing. So I'm going to do this. There's a small piece that got loose. And then another good thing about the plastic wrap is you can form it back together. So at this point, I'm going to take my glove off. so I can do this properly. And you can ball this up. And now we're going to be pushing these back together here. So we're going to start reincorporating this and smushing this back together here. So what I like to do when I am reincorporating these back together, depending on what kind of clay you're using, some I found out I did some with the leather effect and it was a little more crumbly. So, you know, you really want to put some pressure on here and make sure that you're ending up with a good ball. So then, you know, another good thing about the plastic wrap, you can go on and take your roller and you want to go on and flatten this. So because you don't want to lose that nice veining and everything that you've worked so hard to get. You just want to make sure everything's coated really nice in that black paint. And you can go on and roll it out a little bit. You don't have to completely roll it out. Actually, I would recommend not rolling it too thin, because the next step, you're going to want this a little bit thick for the next step for this. So you just want to make sure that the whole thing is coated in your paint like this. Just make sure it's coated. And I am going to leave mine here. And if you want to, you can go back and paint some black, but honestly, it's not really important because we're going to take this top surface off. Okay, so what we're going to do is, since it's acrylic paint and we've incorporated it into the clay, it's going to need some time to dry. So I'm going to leave this for a few hours and come back, and then we will move on with our next step. Okay, it's been a few hours, so it's dry, nothing's coming up. If you do not leave it overnight, sometimes, see, it's still got a little bit of paint on the bottom, but I'm just going to go on and do this. So you can still use the plastic if you want to, whatever you feel more comfortable with. Like I said, I would recommend leaving it overnight, but I'm not going to do that today. So here we go. We are going to start by cutting this top layer off. So everything that's black here, we're going to cut off. So whatever is easiest for you. I'm using this razor blade, but you know, whatever you have that you feel comfortable using, just use what you got. But make sure it's very sharp because we're just taking off this top layer. So I like this one because I can kind of maneuver it. It's okay if it's not perfect because we're going to roll it out a little bit more. But you can already see some of the nice veining here. And if you don't leave it overnight, well actually honestly, even if you do leave it overnight, you still may end up with some little pockets of wet paint. And that's fine. Actually, I think some of the pockets are really interesting sometimes when you're doing your piece. So maybe we'll get one here. I'm going to move this because it's annoying. Okay. So just make sure it's good on the surface and just skim this over the top. Like I said, we're just getting this superficial layer here, everything that is covered with the black paint. So if you end up getting something on it, or if the paint is still wet, you can usually just, you know, cut it off. Works just fine. Just skimming over here, you can see some of this nice veining going on here. And I could have done more. I could have chopped it up into smaller bits. And you could even, if you aren't happy with this side, you can always cut the other side and see if you like it better. So it just depends. Like I said, though, if you want some of these really nice kind of small areas, make sure that you chop up some little pieces as well. I'm curious what the other side looks like, so I'm going to go on and do the other side. Even though this top side here is a little wet, it should be okay. It's just wet mostly from being in contact with the saran wrap. So since it didn't get any air to dry, it keeps it pretty moist, and that's the reason the clay inside can sometimes still be wet too, because once you take away that air, it doesn't dry very well. I'm just literally skimming the top. And if I had done smaller sections, which I'm kind of mad at myself for not doing smaller sections, I wouldn't have ended up with such a large section here. But that's okay. This will still be really nice for a pendant, or something larger where you're going to see more of this veining. I wouldn't recommend something that has such large sections like this for smaller things like earrings. Yeah, I like this side better. So once you've got that done, you can get a clean piece of saran wrap if you want to. I just do it because sometimes there is a little bit of wet paint, and if you put some saran wrap over it while you're rolling it, then sometimes it can reduce the smearing. So I'm just going to get a little piece here. And also I'm going to need a clean piece when I do my doming as well. So if you're going for a pendant, which I'm just going to do a pendant here, you can roll out to whatever thickness you want. The image here is going to stretch whichever way that you roll it. So if there's some sections that you want to open up a little bit and see, what you can get these sections to do, I recommend trying and rolling it a little bit. If there's little pieces that you don't like, or, little flecks have gone on here, you can just cut them off. So I really like using these little razor blades because they're really nice for small stuff like this. And I can just literally hold it in my hand. Okay. A little fleck here that I don't like. I'm going to keep this one pretty thick because I'm going to show you how I like to do a rounded top on my pendants here. So, and sometimes, you can leave, if you don't want to smooth it all out, sometimes it can be kind of nice to leave it irregular, like cut some chunks out of it, because it's almost like the stone has been, if you think about traditional turquoise, it can be kind of like the way it's carved kind of thing. I'm getting a little more of this black off here. So look at all this nice veining we've got going on here. So I'm going to go on and cut this for a pendant. I'll show you what I do. I like to you want to get it, like I said, you want it a little bit thick. It's probably a little bit thicker than 1/4 inch. And you want to have your saran wrap nice and tight, very tight on your slab here. So, and the thicker that you make this, the bigger your dome is going to be. But I'm just going to do mine like this. And I'm going to do probably a couple here. So I'm going to go over here first. And I'm actually using the end of my tube. This is my clay roller. You can actually use, I've done this before, if you need a good size, this is about 1-inch circle. And this can be really nice and effective for using it for pendants or earrings, whatever you want to do. I do have some cutters, but I like the size of this one. It fits some of my settings, my bezel settings really well. So here we go. I'm going to do here. Press really good. And you want to feel it go all the way down. And then you get a nice rounded, let's see if we can get a nice close-up of that roundedness there. Now, like I said, if you want it bigger than this, just keep your clay thicker. So the thicker your clay is, the higher your dome is going to be. So that's going to be a really nice one. And then I can go on and cut some earrings out of this to match this one, which would be really nice. I'll use one of my, let's see, got a pretty big surface here. I don't want a super big circle, so I'm going to use I've got these cutters here. These are really nice, so especially for like stud earrings. And again, if you want these domed, which it looks really nice domed because it looks more like natural turquoise, just remember to get your saran wrap nice and flush against here. I actually have a little bit of smearing here, and that's just because I didn't wait on the black to dry completely, and you can just literally slice it away. It's fine. And I don't waste anything. These will be turned into earrings and used in other things. So, okay, so then you can just use your cutter and just like we did the other, just press into here until you feel the bottom. I'm going to go on and grab this other nice vein here. Alright, so now I have some really nice domed studs that are going to go on here. And those are all ready to bake. Look, and I've still got some nice veining on the other side. So I'll probably turn those into another pendant or something like that. So these are all ready to bake. I usually do mine, I use a toaster oven. So my toaster oven, I usually do it about 250, 275 Fahrenheit for about 20 minutes or so. But as you can see, you know, it's pretty darn close to looking like real turquoise. So I hope this was helpful, and I hope that you are able to make some interesting creations. You know, depending on what colors you use, you'll have a different contrast here. I did do some with the leather effect Sculpey, and you end up with a lot rougher texture on your finish here. Also, like I said, if you want it to have kind of a carved look, you can kind of take some chunks out of your sections and it'll look more like it's kind of a rough carved turquoise. So these are going to be really nice. I'm going to put these in some settings for a pendant and earrings, and they're already matched and ready to go. So I hope this was informative, and I hope you were able to follow it okay. So make sure to share this and like it, and thank you so much for watching, and until next time, thanks.